I think that's the mark of a successful framer, by the way. You take it for granted.
Right, right.
This is I care. You don't have to.
Today on Hustle 50, I'm thrilled to bring you a guest who works with his hands, his eyes, and honestly, a whole lot of patience and passion. My friend DW is a fine art framing and conservation specialist with years of experience as an art preparator and framer. He's worked across custom framing, fine art preservation, installation, and conservation. The kind of skilled craft work that most people never see but always notice when it's done right. After years honing his trade, working with others, DW took the leap last year and started his own framing business. He hasn't looked back. He's busier than ever doing work he loves on his own terms. DW, welcome to Hustle 50. Really glad to have you on the show, man.
Thank you for asking.
How did you first get introduced to the world of art framing and conservation? Was it something you stumbled into or just always gravitated towards? Or
So I've always been an artist, a visual artist. I ended up going to art school because it was the one school that accepted me with the caveat that I maintain a certain GPA. And then I thrived in art school. It was, New York City. I was about 17. Yeah, a few years into that, I was working at the school library, and then a guy who I worked with also had a job at the New York Public Library in their exhibitions department. He invited me to apply, and then I started working in the exhibitions department at the New York Public Library, which and still is a pretty big deal. I was right across the hall from the head conservator. Who I befriended right away. An amazing woman. Taught me all sorts of stuff. I spent 2 years there installing their big shows and fabricating these custom acrylic mounts for old books, original manuscripts like William Blake, Mark Twain. I built a book cradle for one of the Gutenberg Bibles, did framing there. It was an amazing experience.
yeah, so you're sort of like in the beginning, you're thrown into almost like, hey, this stuff I'm working on is actually renowned and really cool. It's not like my sister's, daughter's picture of a bird that I'm framing for her. I'm working on some pretty cool stuff. And so that must have been
Important artifacts.
yeah,
Yeah.
important artifacts. That must have been really cool. Had you done any framing in your personal life or any work like this before? Or
No, I
yeah,
didn't think about it at all.
yeah. You just had a
Um,
job and were rolling with this new thing that you were doing.
yeah, I mean, this was back in, I think, 1998,
Right.
99.
Right.
Um, so I was still, I mean, I still am, but I was impressionable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also really aimless.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I almost had a fine art degree and didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was in a band. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was living in Brooklyn in the 90s, and just running around like a dummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here was this uh, really tight-knit, well-run group of people, the best boss I've ever had, ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So there was a lot of comfort in this new thing that you're learning while you're sort of like in your 20s and impressionable. So
yeah,
was there a moment early on where you realized that like maybe this wasn't just a job that you were doing, but like a real craft that you wanted to master?
not until recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but you
I
worked,
think it,
but you've worked in art framing for decades. Like at some point you had to decide, I'm going to go get a job doing this.
yeah. So I went from that to I drove across the country to Seattle, end
Yeah.
of 2001.
Right. Okay.
got a job at an art supply store and got fired from that job um, for not wearing an oversized shirt that they're like, we're going to start wearing these shirts,
Right.
and I'm like, I'm not going to wear that shirt. And they're like, well, you can wear it or leave. And so I left. Um,
Yeah, to
uh,
consummate typical 90s in their 20s musician artist who didn't want to conform gets let go from job. It's like the scene in the movie, right?
sure,
Right.
sure. There's so much more poetry around it. Like what happened is a whole thing. It's a saga. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. To me, and I think it's important to note that after that, I walked to, because this was at Artists and Craftsmen on off of 45th Street. I walked
Here
on
in
up,
Seattle.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
up 45th to the Handy Andy that was right across from the Dick's drive-in. So
Right.
Handy Andy is it's a tool rental
Yep.
place. So I spent 3 years then working at a tool rental and learning all this stuff about,
Mhm.
how tools worked and what tools were for and how to service them and how to open them up and make small repairs to them. When that store folded, I didn't know what to do. So girlfriend at the time, now wife of, gosh, almost 20 years, told me just to apply to an opening she knew about at Daniel Smith Art Supplies. They had a framer. They had a framing department, and
Yeah.
she knew that they were hiring framers. And I'm like, I I don't know, like I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do like the custom framing thing. And she's like, fake it till you make it, dude.
Yep. Yep.
So that's exactly what I did. I mean, that's kind of how I fell into the like custom framing proper. So I had a museum background, but an art school background. Then I learned about some tools, and then I got hired on the pretense that I knew what I was doing, which I didn't. And they were kind enough to humor what I thought was a convincing act that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah Brooking kind of took me under her wing. I credit her for so much.
Yeah, so just to recap, basically
Yeah,
what happened is you get an art degree, you fall into an amazing sort of opportunity where you're working on like showcasing items with prestige. You move to Seattle, you fall into this job where you're learning about tools that really kind of give you this foundation that you don't know yet is going to help you when you get into framing. Then you go get this framing job. It's funny the way life takes us down a path and that we couldn't have planned out. But at the end of the day, I always tell people, like, don't worry about what it looks like or what the future looks like. Just take action, right? Just move forward, put one foot in front of the other, and things will sort of in retrospect become very clear.
yes, and I think it's important to add that the one constant thread through all of it, the kindness, patience, grace, and willingness of other people.
I think that's important because a lot of people who are going to be watching this, they're watching this because they want to understand the side hustle. They want to understand what you're doing, how you started, and they want to know, if it's something that appeals to them or something similar, right? And so there's this fear that people aren't going to want to use our service or buy from us or hear about what we're doing, and that's just not true. The truth is that most people want to be helpful. It appeals to their sense of being a good person, and we forget that even though they're getting advertised to and hustled and all these weird schmarmy slimy ways, like that's not what we're about, and so they're going to trust us, especially if they know us.
Yeah.
So just getting us now into like what you're doing today, I kind of want to veer that conversation, to present day. Um, so you work as a framer for many years, and after working for others in the industry, what was like the moment or the feeling that made you think, you could do this on your own.
A moment that stands out for me is the phone conversation I had with you right after being fired from my then framing job, of 19 years.
Yeah, so you get let go probably because you were tired of it, they were tired of it. I mean, there are relationships where it's like time to move on, but
Yeah.
you were at this place for 19 years, and they were
Yes.
probably, I might have said this to you when you called me about it,
Yeah.
but I always when I hear about people being let go, I'm like, dude, they did you a favor, and.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you were saying that we had a conversation. You want to talk about that at all, or
the conversation?
Yeah. So
this was the moment that stands out for me. You downplayed, I think rightly, all of the details of the circumstance. You're like, okay, great, here you are now, and you asked me, "What's your dream job?" You have this way of asking questions, where you don't qualify anything. You just ask the question, and you asked. It was direct.
Mhm.
What's your dream job? And Rory, what I described to you was almost a specific kind of client and job that I ended up, I'd say, 4 months later, landing.
Yeah, I think that the reason I'm doing this channel is because I've been mentoring and coaching people into their careers or transitioning, from roles or just getting into entirely new verticals for so long that I really love getting people focused. And for whatever reason, it seems like all I actually have to do, the only job I have, is to ask people questions because they already know, they just haven't taken the time to answer truthfully about what they want. Most people don't actually truthfully answer what they want because it's scary if that means changing what's going on right now. There's so many things that are at risk, if we're honest. And sometimes that risk is really worth taking.
And sometimes we don't even know we're not asking questions, that
Yep.
we're not making requests, that we're in action about any of our desires.
Yeah.
And one more thing in that conversation, because I'm realizing just in talking about it how sort of crucial that moment was. This was hours after I left with all my stuff.
Yeah.
I explained the whole thing, the drama of the incident. I was really shocked and hurt, and I explained this whole thing to you, and you listened, and then you asked me the question, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do about it?" Which sounds flip and insensitive, but from you, I knew that it was you telling me that I had the ability and the power to ask you or to request from you what my needs were, and I simply said, "What do I do?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said, "Oh, I can help you with that."
Yeah.
That was it.
It's funny. I think if you don't know me, sometimes I might come off as I guess you could say, if you don't know me, if somebody didn't know me and they heard me say that question, they might think I'm being an asshole. But
Right.
I'm genuinely saying, what would you like me to do about it?
Yeah.
And then I'm having a conversation with intent.
Yes.
My intention is to be honest about the question. Not like what the F do you want me to do about it, DW?
Yeah. It's not rhetorical.
It's what would you like me to do? And you
Yeah.
said, tell me what to do. And I said, great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we're going. All right. Here's
Yeah.
what you got to do. What scared you most about like starting this new thing?
I mean, you said it already. It was really, who's gonna want this? How am I gonna do my books? How am I going to set up point of sale? How am I going to do a bunch of things that maybe I don't know how to do?
Yeah. So maybe
And then
it sounds like to me like the answer is all of it. All of it was really scary.
all of it was scary. And I performed a kind of writing exercise where, I wrote that stuff down and my fears and what was underneath that and what was underneath that.
Yeah.
And I realized when I got to the bottom of that list that what I was afraid of was dying alone.
Right.
That my wife would leave me, that my child would disown me.
Yeah.
Can a child disown his parent?
Sure.
That I would sink into a depression and I would die miserably and alone. And I said to myself, that's a fiction. That's not real.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. I'm not in a position in my life to even allow that to happen. So if that's what's underneath the fear that like nobody's going to want what I'm selling, I'm just going to go ahead.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to lose my family. And like you said, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah. Awesome. So how did you land your first client?
I landed my first client from a long list, a pages long list of everybody I knew, everyone I'd interacted with, who I had crossed paths with in some form professionally, strangers, friends, family, everybody, and just started making phone calls. Yep. I made so many phone calls.
Yeah.
And so my first client was as a result of that salvo of just reaching out and saying, here are my circumstances. Here's what I'm doing about it. I invite you to consider giving me a shot.
Yep.
With your next thing.
Yep. And this was a personal friend, or this was a business?
My first client is a friend.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, my first client is a friend.
Yep. And so how did you figure out what to charge them, like in terms of pricing? You're getting started. So how did you just price it the way you knew that you priced things at the shop when you worked as a framer, or did you?
No.
Okay.
Completely not. Because I wanted to work from a totally different model. I established my hourly rate. I priced out what I was going to spend on materials, marked those materials up in a way I felt was fair and appropriate, mostly just gas and like a finder's fee, because my model is based a lot on salvage, repurposing, reusing materials, ordering as little as possible from manufacturers and distributors.
Yeah. So part of your margin, you're able to increase margin because you can salvage products for a lot less, if not free, instead of having to buy something retail or even wholesale and then mark that up. So that there's time and effort there, but it also helps you with your margins. So that's kind of cool. So how are you getting clients now? Is it word of mouth, social media, referrals? Like you mentioned to me before this interview that you're busy. And so how are clients coming in now? Are you still making like daily, weekly, monthly calls? Are you emailing people, or are people just telling others? Like, how's that going down?
I spent a lot of time calling and emailing at the beginning. I'm still receiving requests from that initial flurry of activity. Yeah, it's almost 70% or so word of mouth.
Yep.
And then the rest is just repeat clients. It's people that I will drop off what I've done, and they'll look at it and say, "That's amazing. I have more."
Right.
And before I leave, they'll make sure that they've given me more to work on.
Yeah, that's great. There's a particular part of this business that I love, and that's the artistic, personal touch that you put on this from 2 decades worth of experience. And so the cool thing for all those artists out there or those creative types that are watching this, you know, if we're in our 50s, we have a lot more skill and personal, unique, genuine artistic traits that we don't really realize are marketable. And so in your case, you know, you work on a frame, and one might look at a frame and go, that's a frame. And another might look at a frame and go, that is beautiful. That is a piece of art. The frame is more beautiful than the damn picture that it's framing. So that's really cool. So you drop it off, you have this sort of impression from them, and then they're like, I got more, I want more. That's awesome. And then of course, you know, they want to show it to their friends because it's like a baked in marketing machine, because they just spent the money, so they're going to tell their friends. The next person that comes over is going to want to look, they're going to want to say, hey, look at this thing that DW framed. Oh, you know, I have something to be framed, it says their friend, and then boom, right? So there's a cool sort of baked in marketing machine for the thing that you're making and or producing that I think a lot of people forget about. Like when you're making something and you really do the legwork to push, like to tell everybody that you know when you first start, if you can get a couple of bites, then it gets the ball rolling, and that word of mouth, that referral business can actually be pretty good because it's something visual that people want. I mean, obviously, if you were making something that nobody ever used, it wouldn't work. But in this case, everybody needs art on their walls, period. And everybody loves, you know, a better frame. If you can frame it better, it's, you know, you can tell.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that like, I was going to ask what's working better than you expected when it comes to growing the business? That probably is the number one thing, that your referral business is keeping you busy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the number one thing.
And, you know, next point sort of in my flow for this interview is you don't even have a website yet.
That's right.
Right.
I haven't had time,
Yeah.
Rory. I,
Right.
I don't, I haven't even finished with my infrastructure. I'm still setting up. I have two spaces. I'm in my, my clean room right now in Georgetown, and I have a wood shop, um, in Burien. Um, so I've had two spaces to set up and kind of get the flow, get the workflow
Right. You're
thing
busy.
going. And I
You're
haven't even, I'm still building furniture, you know?
right. Yeah. Yeah. You're just busy. Well, heads up to the listeners. We might actually do a live episode where we build one together with DW. So stay tuned for that. And so, yeah, it sounds like word of mouth is really just going great for you.
It
Um,
is.
what has changed the most about how you run things from, you know, month one, that first month, to where you're at now? Is it that you know, you started, you were scared, you were reaching out, you were hustling, and now
Yeah.
it's like, well, you're just keeping up with orders?
I'm certainly, well, yeah, but I'm also in a way better rhythm. My time management has improved markedly. Order of operations, executive functioning stuff.
Yeah, just
Um,
process stuff. So what does a typical week look like for you now compared to when you were at a 9 to 5? Can we do a little comparison really quick? Like
oh,
9 to 5, like what does a week look like? Is it just sort of crazy, or are you in a rhythm now that's like really great?
now I'm trying to run it a little more like a 9 to 5, although it's more like a 7 to 5 right now.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense. It's your own thing. There's a lot to
yeah,
do. You got to wear about 4, 5, or 10 hats.
a lot of hats. Yeah, I would say I'm so much more organized now. I've done the process now over and over again. Like on Sunday night, I can sort of, game out a week
Yeah.
where I'm doing a site visit or going to a client's house. I'm ordering and picking up whatever supplies I'm buying from my wholesaler. And it's, I will note, if there are any framers watching this, I don't salvage the archival stuff, the mat board, 9 times out of 10, the glass. I have reused glazing for work. But there are some things in this industry that you just can't get around.
Right.
Because you need good stuff, conservation materials.
Yeah, sure.
And that stuff is not on the side of the road for sure.
Right. What's something most people don't know or appreciate about fine art framing and conservation? Maybe help the listeners understand something that you just wouldn't know about framing. Like, is it the technical building of it, or is it the piece itself? Is it the time it takes to match the piece with what you think the client wants?
The secret move is really like less is more.
Yeah.
I can be challenged on this. It's fine. But at the end of the day, the frame itself is decorative. From a conservation standpoint, the frame doesn't matter so much. You don't want it to stand out as,
it supports the picture.
Thing.
It supports the piece versus vice versa.
It frames it.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is everything inside and how that's dealt with.
You mean the mat that it sits on, and
this is the education I've gotten from conservators.
Yeah.
Who have a degree in conservation. There's a ton of science that goes into that. Getting a tight join, getting a tight miter, just the natural properties of any of these materials. They're gonna do stuff that you don't want them to do.
Right.
Like it's stuff in the world. You're a person who makes mistakes and who you're fallible, and it's
you're still building something.
Loss. So just messing stuff up.
Yep.
Messing stuff up. Dust.
Right.
It's a pain in the ass.
Right. Yeah, that's a great answer. It's so funny how when you're building something, it's one thing to build, but there's a whole cleaning process. As a homeowner, I've learned half of the job of doing the job is cleaning up after yourself or cleaning as you go. What's the most interesting or unusual conservation or framing project you've taken on?
Just recently, an artist asked me to build her a wagon for her weaving loom.
Okay.
Because she's a performance artist and video artist and sculptor, and she wanted to be able to manually harness her loom to her body, right, and pull it around Washington State,
right,
and then stop and get on it and do her weaving. So she needed an off-road, basically farm cart.
Right. And you took this on.
Of course, I was like, I'd love to do that.
But it's not a framing project. I'd love to build you a
vehicle.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting about this question is I thought you were going to answer like, oh, well, there's this antique piece that I, worked on, or something that was really old, or something that was like in the family for 500 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But what your answer alludes to is this idea that like, if you're building one thing, you may actually be able to build or do or service other projects. And I think that, again, we forget that, even though we're focused on this sort of like vertical of services that we do or things that we do artistically, other people will come to us because they saw something that they liked, or they know that we're doing something similar, they might come and ask us for this other thing. And of course we can say no. But that's just in my book, like if we're striking out on our own and we're trying to have a side hustle, I might be really grateful that that job came in because there wasn't those other jobs that I was relying on that I normally do. Or B, like it might be another thing that I could think about marketing. What's a mistake you see people make, like either DIYers or other framers that make you cringe a little when framing?
Tape, glue, like so much tape. I've unframed. I'm having to take off so much tape.
Is there a client or a piece of work that really stands out? Something that, really kind of says, this is why this is like why I've done this, why I've struck out on my own. Is there, which one is?
It was that one 4 months in.
Oh yeah. That first one. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It was a stained glass window.
Yeah.
And I went to her house. I go to people's houses. I engage with them about their spaces, things and the things that the things that mean a lot to them. Yeah. I engaged with her about her art collection, and I talked about the details in her craftsman house. And I went away with this stained glass window. And was able to do. I had the time and the freedom to do a bunch of research on the arts and crafts movement in the early 20th century, and look at furniture details and frame details, and come up with a design that matched everything in her life.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, it was the first of a few.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
What advice would you give to someone in the trades or a skilled craft who's thinking about going out on their own, or but they're hesitant to pull the trigger? And not a long litany, just like what's the one or two things.
I don't like giving advice. Be humble. Talk to people. Be curious.
You mean network? Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Don't isolate.
Yeah. So you're saying tell people about what you're doing. This is a big thing that
about what you do, and be curious about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that's people love talking about themselves.
There's a book I read when I was a teenager, and it's a sales book that I think was written in the 50s. It's Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was really aggressive about like selling things when I was a teenager, and
that doesn't surprise me.
I learned a lot of hard lessons about like what to do and what not to do, and how to appeal to people, and I learned how to like really rub people the wrong way. And but one of the biggest things that I learned from that, there's only a couple of things, but one of them is and I'm gonna ad lib this a little bit, but there's this idea of like the most important word in the world to every single person is their own name.
Yeah.
The most important word.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah. And so probably not. He probably got it from the 1,000-year-old text, but it is true. When you remember somebody's name, there's these little tricks when it comes to networking and making people feel important. And, the next thing, if I can't remember somebody's name because I'm getting older and I forget names, is I ask them about their life. Yeah. I want to tell them. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I need to tell people I'm doing this business. I'm starting an art thing. I'm framing. I just got let go. I need to make money. My wife's going to leave me. My kids are going to hate me. I'm at the art thing. I need to tell people. And it's like, no. Flip it around. Walk up and ask Susie or Jim or Frank how they're doing. How's their life going? And then listen. And then when they say, what's up with you? You've literally given them the opportunity to want to hear, because you've already offered the listening. Now Precisely. They want to reciprocate. Instead of going at people and saying, hey, what's going on? Did you know that I'm doing this thing? You go, how's it going? What are you up to?
Reciprocity.
Right. How's your
It-
life?
it's not transaction.
No.
Yeah, there's the transactional and there's the reciprocal, and these two are opposite. They're opposites.
Okay, so what do you wish you had known or done differently before you started? One thing, biggest one or two big things. Like what do you wish you had known or done differently?
I wish
Like,
I'd known how absolutely delightful this was, sooner.
yeah, because you would have
I
it
mean,
would have been more appealing. You would have started sooner. You would have made the transition, struck out on your own earlier.
it would have been maybe a little less messy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a common theme. It's like we're always kind of forced into change. And then it's like it's a little bit messy because we didn't take the time to plan, because we never took the time to be honest about what we really want, what we'd rather be doing, and feel
Yeah.
like that was like worth the risk. It's
Yeah.
so typical of most, I would say, Americans who were locked into a job. You were in a job for 2 decades and you kind of had to be let go so the universe could like open this door for this new possibility of you being your own art framer. It's so
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. It's so awesome. This is another thing that I write in this little free ebook that, I'm trying to like put out there so people can hopefully get some ideas is like you have decades of experience and skill sets that you don't even know you can use to make money today, right now. You could
Yeah.
start a business
Yeah.
today with probably 3 or 4 things that you're essentially an expert in because you've been doing it for decades. Yeah, maybe you don't have a PhD, maybe you don't have a certificate, but you don't really need it. Most things don't need it to start a side hustle. So, just really getting to close here, what would you tell someone who wants to eventually do what you do or something similar? Like, where should they begin? Like, where do they start? Is it just starting to tell people networking, or is it like create a plan? I mean, obviously, I have my answer, but I think I think really like somebody who wants to get into something a little bit more artistic, where do you think that they start? Is it different from any other kind of business?
I'm gonna reiterate that community is key. Make friends,
Yeah.
uh, uh, have colleagues, show up
Yeah, yeah.
to make the scene, show up to people's stuff. People need to know who you are and what you do, and have to also feel as though you're invested in who they are and what they do.
Network, and if you don't have a community, create one or go to where people are. I think that because you are you and you are successfully running an art framing business, um, it is really important to say, like, without a community, if you're not going to do digital, then you better be networking, right? Because it ain't going to happen. Nothing's going to get sold. At the end of the day, like this channel is called Hustle 50 for a reason. You have to
Yeah.
hustle, meaning you have to take action. You have to take action. You have to get out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a perfect note to end on. I'm going to wrap
Yeah.
it up. Thanks so much, DW. This was a great
Delightful.
conversation.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly, an eye-opening look at a craft that most of us take for granted. Every time we hang something on a wall.
That is the mark. I think that's the mark of a successful framer, by the way. You take it for granted.
Right, right.
This is I care. You don't have to.
Well, if you're looking for a fine art framing and conservation specialist who genuinely cares about their work, you can reach DW directly at hfestudiollc@gmail.com. And I'll drop a link to his Instagram and email in the description below so you can find him easily. And like I mentioned, we may be doing a future episode where we actually build his website together live. So keep an eye out for that one. I'm so happy for you, man. We had that conversation. I was walking my dogs at the dog park. You
Yeah.
had just gotten let go. And here you are a year later. You're like successfully running a business. It's amazing.
Let's go.
Thanks, DW. Have a great day, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks, Rory.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.